At Gamescom 2017, it was announced that a definitive edition of Age of Empires 1, and then Age of Empires 4, its own standalone game, will be produced. So to celebrate, and because oh my god, it's being released after 11 years, I've been waiting so long for this! We're gonna talk about how to make Age of Empires 4 awesome. Don't worry, we'll also talk about the definitive editions that are on their way. So the games will be produced by Relic Entertainment, who are known for games such as Company of Heroes, Dawn of War, and the Homeworld series. Which is great, because they're all pretty decent real-time strategies. I think they got the right company behind this. We can see from the trailer footage of what we're going to get from the Age of Empires Definitive Edition, and it certainly appears they know what the fans want. But we don't know a lot from the announcement trailer for Age of Empires 4, so here's some ideas. Number 1. Let it span across history, and add something new. Any fan of the series would know that in Age of Empires 1, we had the BC era of civilization, such as the Hittites, the Carthaginians, the Romans, Macedonians, all those guys. Then in Age of Empires 2, we had the Middle Age civilizations, and finally in Age of Empires 3, we had the colonial empires. So I have a question then. Will our Civ that we're playing span across all those eras from BC all the way up to colonial times, like Sid Meier's civilization or Rise of Nations? I reckon it should. The civilizations should span across all those eras. I mean, this game seems to be the summation point of all these 3 games before it. It only makes sense that it covers all those eras. Perhaps at every advancement in age, the name of the Civ changes, from Celts to Scots, from Franks to French, from Persian to Ottoman. You get my point. And also, in terms of tech advancement, it might be a bit of historical dissonance to have clubmen versus hoplites, but AoE was known for weird things like this, such as petard spamming, legions of Choconu, you name it. And if you fall behind in technological sense and you have your legionnaires fighting your enemy's musketmen, it could be a tad humorous and allow players to make for some great stories. And if players do fall behind, they can use bonuses such as faster resource gain or faster tech upgrades, etc. And by something new, I don't mean anything too radical like a card system or what have you. I mean, maybe a civilization power might work. For the Bretons British, you can press a power button and allows you to build town centers faster for X amount of minutes. Or for the French, cavalry become invulnerable for 3 seconds, or, that sort of stuff, to give each civilization you play a bit of an edge. Perhaps units have inventory or upgradable stats. Perhaps a promotion system like in the Command & Conquer games. They could borrow a page from Age of Mythology perhaps, and have powers like I mentioned, but they're earned through some sort of other resource, or they could be on cooldown or bought through the main resources themselves. Or maybe they could have unit abilities, like in Warcraft 3. Certain cavalry units can charge, or infantry can do more damage to buildings by switching to arson mode by wielding a torch instead of a sword. They deal reduced damage to units though. I personally think that something along these lines should be added, something just different from the past 3 games. But something that will make Age of Empires 4 its own thing. I'm curious to see if other people think the way I do about this, so please leave a comment below and we could start a discussion. Number 2. Don't skimp on the campaigns. I don't know about you lot, but I loved the campaigns back in the day. Not only did they give me a recap of some actual ancient or medieval history, but they were sometimes challenging and put my skills to the test. We see in the Definitive Edition the return of these campaigns, and I saw that and I was like, oh my god, yes! I think with the upcoming Age of Empires 4, they have a chance to do something a lot more grander and a lot more immersive. Although Age of Empires 3 was a bit of a letdown compared to its predecessors, I did enjoy the campaigns and how he followed a bloodline throughout history. I don't think this should be repeated again, but something along these lines would be awesome. Something like akin to StarCraft 2, where we have a character that we can level up throughout the campaign, which provides boost to certain aspects of gameplay that we have. And maybe this person could exist from Julius Caesar to, I don't know, Ivan the Terrible. Some great voice acting would be great too, but that's something that's always important for myself personally. Number 3. Leave it open to the modding community. Although I honestly can't remember some really awesome custom maps that were made during the Age of Empires 2 days, most probably because I didn't have reliable internet when I was a youngin', I think a map maker or toolkit should be available. We've seen in multiple instances across many games how people with much more free time and a lot of passion can produce some really great custom maps, and even make new games within the game, like a video game babushka doll. I think even the inclusion of inventory or unique stats on some units would allow some interesting game types to evolve. if they're included that is. But I think a major advantage of the modding community as seen on the Steam edition is not only maps, but new skins or models for soldiers, buildings, terrain texture packs, and even, blood textures. Yes, cause the
ground was not reddened enough by the blood of my enemies.
So yeah, Toolkit, modding community, do it. Number 4. It better have good multiplayer support. I think beside Diablo 2, Warcraft 3, Age of Empires 2 was the most played game amongst me and my friends, both currently and back in the day. This was aided by how most of us lived down the street from one another and had our parents drop us off with our CRT monitors. But now, times have changed. A lot of us have busier lives and we end up staying at home a lot more. And so, being able to connect up and play with a mate without ping or connection issues would be appreciated. But maybe that's just me living in Australia and having to deal with the half-assed infrastructure upgrade that is the NBN. But I digress. Perhaps the existence of guilds would be awesome too. I remember also that brief stint of Age of Empires Online. Anyone remember that? Although the ridiculous pay-to-win system of, like $30 for a new civilization? However, the item system to upgrade your units and specialize them was an awesome idea in my opinion. Although, I remember there was like loot crates and you would buy the loot crates and you would get like shitloads of items, but if you did like the missions you would get like, you get this sword! However, the item system to upgrade your units and specialize them was an awesome idea in my opinion. Adding RPG-like elements of loot systems to an RTS really allowed some interesting strategies to arise. And also, changing what your units look like on the battlefield was not only cool, but in some instances allowed you to tell your units apart from others. Should this loot system be implemented again? I think this is a bit, I don't know, something like it, but not a carbon copy of what it was might help a lot. Let me know what you think down below. Number 5. Make Age of Empires 4 its own game, and don't forget the fans. I think the last few points I've made culminate into this point here. But I just want to reiterate that for the definitive editions, fans are expecting what they played almost 2 decades ago, but with a different look and some tweaks in my opinion. Changes such as the remastering of the score to the game, zoom settings and better pathing AI are the kind of things we the fans would appreciate from the change. Changes to unit models have been seen too, and I think the option to customize your unit's looks would be awesome, either through modding or developer supplied skins, even if you could earn them through the campaign or something. I think for the Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, changes to the AI of the units would be appreciated too. I mean, I think plenty of us here have had some really great stories, rage-filled stories about our armies marching the wrong fucking way or getting stuck in the fucking trees! And maybe different settings from defensive to offensive rather than creating endless amounts of their unique unit and staying in their base for 30 fucking minutes. It's so frustrating. Why are there so many longbowmen? It just means I have to build more, and then there's no actual strategy. It's just a game of, let's see who builds the biggest human ball. Oh wait, that's actually kind of the point of a lot of RTS. Now discussing Age of Empires 4. It should be its own game, in which we see the steps and evolution of the franchise up to this point. It should be familiar, yet something new. A hard task to pull off, I know. I think this could be achieved by retaining the key mechanics of the previous games, such as unique units, age advancement, 4 different types of resources, tailored tech trees, and well-identified tiers of production for buildings or units. You'd think this goes without saying, but we've had some real fuck-ups in the past. As for the changes to make Age of Empires 4 its own game, look, who knows, really, there hasn't been any hint as to what will come, and we're all just speculating here. But as I've mentioned, I hope they allow a match to span all the way from BC times up to the colonial times, and then there's something new, some small amendment to the gameplay that adds something new, but not reinventing itself. My personal favourite when it comes to a sequel done right is Injustice 2. They really dived into the interest and beloved story of the Injustice universe by giving us the story centered right in that universe, but also at the same time they added the fighter gears system, which works really well, which is a good balance of a sequel done right, of understanding what people wanted from the first and bringing it into the sequel, but then making it its own game. Number 6, the golden age of RTS returns. One last thing before I end this fanboy rant. I think the re-emergence of this classical RTS will cause waves within the video game industry. Such as when Minecraft came out all those years ago, we had a series of attempts to cash in on that popularity. And when the open world games became a thing, more of those emerged. If this succeeds, RTS fans may actually see more video game companies start to consider producing RTS again. to ride the trending wave. Perhaps the golden age of RTS might make a return, foretold by the prophets of gaming trends while on high. And it is said that the fourth installment of a totally legit RTS would return during a time of troubles and ignorance. And henceforth, the lords of gaming knew that this shit was totally real, and that they could totally cash in on it. You know, something like that, I mean. I wasn't there or anything, so. And who knows? Maybe a particular AAA company with a famous RTS series that started in November of 1994 and ended in the early 2000s might consider making a fourth installment as well. Hey? Hey? Am I crazy? Blizzard! Make Warcraft 4! If Microsoft can do it, so can you! Alright, I'm out! Thanks for watching this video on how we could make Age of Empires 4 awesome. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that lovely stuff down below. I'm looking forward to covering more Age of Empires 4 content, so stay tuned. If you're new here, check out the other videos like my Witcher book recaps. Share this video with your mates. See you later.